Wow, thank you so much. Yeah, I grew up with chronic illness. It happened in my young teenage years. It was very female, hormonally driven. It's called endometriosis. It's extremely painful, extremely inflammatory, and there's a lot that goes along with that. And it was quite a struggle in the beginning because no one would help me. It was, oh, well, this is just normal female problems. This is becoming a woman. Congratulations. Yes, you're going to be in pain for the rest of your life. It's totally fine. And so it took a long time for me to push for any kind of diagnosis. And then I got one. And then it was years of surgeries and different medications and all different things that made me feel honestly terrible. I didn't feel good at all. And I was still having all of my pain. And so I had this moment of clarity at some point where it was just like, I think I need to stop doing everything everyone has told me and start from scratch and get to know my body again, get to know what serves me, what doesn't. Maybe I can branch out into other modalities and see what else is out there to help me. And it started from there. And what I realize looking back now is that that takes a certain level of self-belief to be able to do that. People always ask, well, how were you able to do that? And now that I've progressed, a decade into my journey and I understand the mentality aspect behind it more, it's self-worth, it's self-belief, and those two become really pivotal in my story. So as I decided to go off of everything in a very safe way and branch out into different modalities and start speaking up towards these doctors, start self-advocating, it became a whole different scenario. I started feeling better, I started doing better, I started asking for help from other places. I found a naturopathic doctor that was excellent and helped me see that your body is not separate pieces. It's all one thriving community. And then from there, I became pain free. I had two beautiful children that I was told I may never be able to have, two boys. And then just started expanding from there. It taught me a lot about how our external environment deeply affects the health and our internal environment, mentally, emotionally, physically, and vice versa, how our mental, emotional, and physical state really presents itself in our external world, whether we want it to or not. And so when I started speaking in this space, everyone was really talking about how the two were separate and how it's just either physical health or it's mental health, when in reality, it's both. If your physical health is one foot and mental health is in another, if you only step with one, you're going to start going in circles really quickly. And so learning that it's both was really impactful, not only for me, but as I started public speaking on women's health, I really saw in their faces how seen and heard they felt. But yet, when they went home, they didn't feel like they could do the things that I had done. And that came back to their level of self belief and self worth, which is why all my work has expanded into that as well.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Amy. And I want to say congratulations on the illness and everything. But with the illness, what I would like to ask, what type of illness was it, like a inner or outside? Was it a mental one? And again, who do you think during that time played a really huge role? Was it your mother? Was it your father? Or you just fought everything all by yourself?
Yeah. So it's a physical condition. It's an inflammatory condition where your cells proliferate outside of where they're supposed to, but it's a benign way. It's not cancerous. And so it causes a lot of inflammation, a lot of fertility problems in women, a lot of cycle pain for women. And when you're in pain, it affects your mental health regardless. As much as you do your best to push through and do all of the things, it's hard to not sometimes fall into a victim mindset and to have that kind of take on as a piece of your identity. And in reality, if you take it on as a piece of your identity and you get into that victim mode, it's very hard to get or even see a way out. And so it's really important to keep your mental health up as well. And so my favorite people during that time, honestly, were my parents. They didn't know what to do for me. They didn't know how to help me, but they supported me the best that they could. And when they look back now, even when I talk to them about it, they do talk about how they wish they had learned more or could have pushed harder for me. But honestly, I think me learning to push hard for myself was a huge lesson that I walked away with in that journey.
Thank you so much, man. No, parents really play a very huge role in someone's life. Congratulations on
Mm.
that, man. And I want to go to the points of mindset, Mrs. Amy. In your own way, how can you try to define someone who has like how can you try to define mindset growth when someone mindset is improving, ma?
Yeah, so we're talking about like how we can improve our mindset if we're
Y-
struggling with it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's about actually understanding where you're at accurately to begin with. If you're in a really low state and maybe you are in a state of victim mode, which is hard to take ownership for because it doesn't make us feel very good to identify as something like that, even if we are. So it's an accurate self-assessment without judgment. It's here's where I am. And then when you understand where you're at accurately, you can take small, sustainable steps that are actually going to help you out from where you are. Because if you are down here, but you like to pretend and think that you're a little bit up here, and so you start taking action at this level, it's never going to be sustainable for you to keep moving forward from there. Whereas if you understand that you are down here, and then you can choose a small step forward, sustainable, that you can do consistently, that is going to be the win. And what's so beautiful about everything out there right now is there's so many things that that small step can be. And you get to decide what resonates with you. You get to go on that journey and search. And what I love about that is that there is no right or wrong. It is what helped you might help me. What helped you might not help me, but there might be something else. Having an open and growth mindset is going to help you. If you have a fixed and closed mindset and you believe that people like you can't be helped and you believe that you yourself can't be helped from the situation that you're in, then it's going to be harder for you to step out. So it's more how can you step into having a growth mindset? How can you step into having a more abundant mindset? And what is a small and sustainable step you can take? I think we all love hearing, oh, if you just do this one thing, this one big thing, you're going to feel better all the time, forever. And it sounds great, but it's not accurate. It's not sustainable. It's not something we can do all the time, or it might even be just that kind of bumper sticker positive saying that doesn't even reflect how all of us feel or how all of us do. And so, understanding where you're at accurately, what is your level of self belief? What is your level of self worth? How much humility do you have to own where you're at and then step forward small and sustainably from there?
Thank you so much, Mrs. Amy. And that was a very, very good one. It takes just step by step. It's not can't be accurate. Thank you so much, ma. And I want to go to the point. Some people would like to learn on challenges you faced and how you try your best to just weigh it out and probably overcome it. What do you think are the challenges you think you faced during your mindset growth, ma?
Hmm. It was it was lack of self-worth for me. I always had higher self-belief. I always believed I could figure something out externally in the world. It was more that I didn't have enough worth and worthiness of my in myself. And so that always hinders us because self worth is an internal game, self belief is an external game. And for me, it was more internal. It was, I would come up against these barriers of self sabotage because I deep down had thoughts that I wasn't worthy of feeling better. And that's a big one that you see in the chronic illness space. No one ever says it out loud. Sometimes it's not even logical. We don't actually think that way, but somewhere deep down in the back of our brains, in those underlying thoughts, are that is that lack of self-worth. And so learning to build my self-worth really started in the background of just me being an advocate for myself, me saying, hey, I actually don't feel good, or this isn't a normal pain for me, or I don't believe this is what's best for me. And when people contradict how you yourself are physically or mentally or emotionally feeling, that's a really challenging spot to be in. And so the more you can learn to stand up for yourself, stand in your truth, stand in what you believe, it's going to help you build those tools of self belief and self worth in the background of your mind. And so just small baby steps there too. Who do you need to stand up to next? What part of yourself do you need to verbally express outward that you've kept inward? Who's a safe person that you can talk to? I mean, the right people in your life is everything on these journeys for sure. And to make sure that uh, the people in your life are a reflection of your self-worth. So when you spend time with someone, for example, do you feel better afterwards or do you feel less than? Do you feel like you have more self respect or less self respect? Do you feel
Mm,
seen, heard, or do you feel dismissed?
mm,
If you're going on a journey, whether it be mental, physical, emotional,
mm,
that matters so much in your life.
mm, mm. Thank you so much, Mrs. Army. Honestly speaking, I really learned something there. Oh. I really learned something there. Thank you so much, ma. I really happy. Thank you so much, ma. I want to go to the area of when someone is trying to learn something new. You know, even me sometimes when I want to learn something new, I'll be like, and I have this one on board, though. Okay, Sha, let me see what's will happen. Like, I would like to ask, what strategy do you think you use that always motivates you to always just learn something new over time?
Hmm. Well, I have been blessed with a very curious mind myself. I love learning all the time. I'm doing courses behind the scenes all the time. I love reading and all of these things, but I'm motivated by my interests. And so that comes back to self-discovery. It comes back to what really motivates you. What really excites you? What do you want to learn about? Who do you want to expand into? That matters the most. It's getting back down to that self-accurate assessment of what is something you're excited about. Because a lot of us go into paths and lean into things that actually aren't from our own influence. It's from external influence. It's from the people around us. It's from our parents. It's from social media, the things we think we should do and be and say. And you lose motivation very quickly when that's not aligned with who you are. And so finding something that really speaks to you automatically adds that bit of excitement, which is easier in motivation. Motivation doesn't come every day. I think it's so hard to hear all of these quotes that you hear everyone say about motivation and how you can have it every day and it makes people feel like there's something wrong with them when they don't have motivation every day. When that's the reality, that's okay. That's being human. No human alive is motivated every day, but what they are driven by are their goals. They're driven by what excites them. And some days it just takes grit. Some days, the things you've committed to doing, the habits you've committed to every day, things you want to learn and grow into, some days it's going to suck. And that's okay. That's totally normal. How do you have a little bit of grit in that moment and get it done anyways? Because at the end of the day, when you do something that you said you were going to do and you've created a habit that's sustainable for you to do and you do it when it's hard, that builds self belief, self respect, and self work in the background. And as those three things increase, so does your motivation.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Ami. And I want to go to the area of criticism because as for me, criticism is a big issue because I always try my best to do some things in terms of what if they say something like this? I always have that issue. I always notice this myself because I'll be like, I don't want to do this thing because what if they say this thing? You know, it looks one kind to me. I'll feel bad and things like that. I would like to ask, how do you try your best to handle criticism on your work, ma?
Mm, what a powerful question. So, people deal with criticism differently. And I believe it's dependent on your core wound.
Okay.
And so, my core wound is actually unlovable. Deep down, a piece of me feels like I'm an unlovable person. And so when I get criticized, my automatic, unlovable, unconscious response is to mold to whatever and whoever I need to be so I don't lose love from that person. Whereas some other people, there's another category of core wounds that's not good enough, not enough, defective is kind of that underlying thought. Not that I am actually unlovable, not that that person is actually defective. It's just these core wounds that run underneath us that we can put ourselves into these few buckets. And so when they get criticized, typically they'll inflate. They'll inflate and act better than, or go prove someone wrong, or so it's one of those things. It's not a one answer fixes everybody. It's again understanding yourself and what unconscious narratives are running you. So if someone criticizes you and that really upsets you, ask yourself why. Why does this upset me? What does it actually mean about me? What do I believe about myself that that's poking? And then at the end of the day, honestly, do not take criticism or advice from anybody you wouldn't trade places with. If they don't have a lifestyle that you desire, if they don't have a love life that you desire, if you, it's like taking love examples from people who've been divorced 10 times. Are they the best person to go to for marital advice? Probably not, even though they seem to have a high opinion about it sometimes, right? And so it's taking it everything with a grain of salt that you can run through your own filter. Ask what is true about that you believe about yourself, which is why it upset you. And then ask, does it really matter? Does it really matter what this person thinks in the grand scheme of things? Is it so detrimental that I want to give up what I'm doing? Typically not.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Army. It differs. Thank you so much, ma. I really appreciate it, ma. And I want to go to the area of effort because effort really plays a huge role. Because I remember one time in my life when I just try something like this, bam. When I just see that it's not work, I'll just shift. So I would like to ask, what role do you think effort really plays in achieving success, ma?
Hmm. I mean, effort, everyone looks at effort differently. I think to some people, effort needs to be perfectionism, right? Did I put the perfect amount of effort in? And if I can't put the perfect amount of effort in, I'm not going to do the thing. And some people believe that effort is a consistency. How can I consistently put effort into something every day? There's a scale there. I think effort, well, I take this two ways because effort, let's say for women, is very different and feels different every day than it does for men. So men cycle on a 24-hour clock. So you guys are like the sun. You're the same every day, but you fluctuate throughout the day, like the sun does. Women are like the moon. We are different mentally, emotionally, physically every day, slightly different every day. And so, what you see a lot of women get into the trouble of is they are on fire one week. They're so consistent. They're hammering their workouts. They're articulate. They're more engaging. They feel more social. And then about a week and a half later, they're shaming themselves because they didn't have as much energy as they did a week ago. They don't have the articulation or the drive or feel like they can put in as much effort as they could even 2 weeks ago. And without understanding that that is a normal cycle for women to go through, you get a lot of shame there. Women are so upset with themselves that they can't hold this consistent level of effort. But at the end of the day, I mean, your 100% of effort looks different every day. If I only have 30% to give today and I gave that full 30%, that's my 100% that I had to give that day. And that's worth celebrating. That's worth putting and self assigning and self celebrating that. And so just understanding that your energy, your effort is going to look different every day. And what does that mean for you? Does that mean you need to shift some of your habits so they're more sustainable? Does that mean you need to adjust and pivot some of the things you want to do so that you can consistently do them every day, regardless of how you're feeling effort wise? I think that's worth looking at.
Thank you so much, ma. And I want to go to the point of people who want to really develop their mindset growth. I would like to ask, what are the ways you think someone can cultivate a mindset growth in their daily life, ma?
Hmm. Learning to build a growth mindset it's built every day. As much as we would love to do this one thing on Sunday or these 3 hours of putting in effort, it's the small things that you do every day. So learning to have a growth mindset is learning to see the duality in things, how some things can be really crappy, but there's going to be something good come from it. Abundance mindset. How can you be more abundant And that people always take that word financially, but in reality, it's how can you be more abundant every day? How can you see something more positively every day? And then all of that can easily come down to a gratitude practice. I love daily gratitude practices for people who are looking to expand into a healthier mindset because when we're constantly reaching and grasping for things that we don't have yet, and we put in the thoughts of I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I have this thing. I'll be happy when I achieve this thing. If you can't learn to be happy now with what you have, it's going to be extra struggle. It's going to be an extra struggle when you have the thing that you wanted. And so, where can you start learning to build those habits and that mindset now with small daily action? And I love gratitude practices for that because it forces you to look around at what you currently have and what you're currently seeing and doing in the world. And how can you hold more gratitude for that?
Thank you so much, Mrs. Ami. Lastly, I want to go to the point of misconception. What
Mm.
misconception do you think um, are common in about having a growth mindset, ma?
Mm. I think lots of people lean into the ideology that ignorance is bliss. And sometimes it is, sure, but only in the short term. Growing yourself, expanding, doing all of these things, it can be uncomfortable on the day to day, but long term, it sets you up for a more successful life and whatever that means to you. I believe success is very much to the individual. What successful might mean to me might not mean the same to the mother down the street and vice versa. And so success is very unique to you. And so what is it that means? Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Mrs. Ami. And I would like to ask if there's any advice you would like to give to the audience on that possible mindset growth or others, ma.
Mm. I I love just saying, how can you get to know yourself on a deeper level? How can you have the humility that it takes to accurately own where you're at so that you can sustainably build and grow into the direction of alignment, whatever that feels like to you, whatever feels most aligned to you? Because you're going to have more success if you own where you're at now, your mental, emotional, physical health, whatever journey it is you're taking, whether it be in finances, whether it be in fitness, whether it be in mental health, a career, anything like that, if you accurately assess where you're at now and can learn to self assess, you can build sustainably, which will build successfully.
Hmm. Thank you so much, Mrs. Ami. And then I want to go to the point of sorry, there's a question I normally ask, ma. From the ancestors, from the forefathers, if there is anything you would like to bring back to our time today, what do you think that thing will be, ma?
Simplicity. I would bring back simplicity. I think in a day of social media, in a day where everyone has access to everyone's opinion, and we
Mhm.
start to learn what's our opinion versus what someone else's, I think that can be really dangerous when we hold into comparison too much because we have too much exposure to everyone else's life in the world. I would bring back people's ability to be happy in simplicity and to still chase their dreams and still do the things they want to do, but without the burdens that people take on from the complexity that is the world.
All right, Mrs. Ami, I want to really appreciate you for your time, for everything, for your efforts. Thank you so much, Mrs. Ami.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a beautiful conversation.
Yes, thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.